This is you. You just dropped a speech so fire it practically scorched the air. And that speech, it just sentenced an entire nation to get deleted from the map. You've got God mode enabled. You're redrawing world geography like it's your personal game of Risk, but why the hell do you have this kind of absolute power? You were born into a timeline of pure chaos. Wars tearing nations apart left and right. But honestly, those global conflicts were child's play compared to the WWE SmackDown happening in your own living room. Your dad, a strict abusive bureaucrat with a heavy hand. Your mom a religious fanatic who spoiled you rotten. But hold up, don't get it twisted. That wasn't love. You were just the rebound kid, the player 2 replacement for your dead brother. Classic textbook toxic parenting, zero fix given about your happiness, 100% obsessed with your clout. Your dream of shredding the violin, crushed by their delusional expectations. They wanted a doctor or a lawyer. Instead, you ended up as a glorified secretary for a mayor in some pedunk town God forgot about. And let's talk about your boss. A lazy parasite, a total nepo baby, who only got the gig because his daddy is a big shot in the capital. He steals the credit and feasts like a king. You're on the Sigma grind set, running on 3 hours of sleep. But here's the kicker. While doing all the grunt work, you weren't just a secretary. You were unintentionally leveling up your stats in master governance, while he was just leveling up his cholesterol. Your childhood obsession with perfection didn't just vanish. You need your work to be immaculate. So you start spamming the mayor's desk with radical policy proposals. You draft urban overhauls, business boosters, and a tax optimization strategy so aggressive it'd make a Wall Street accountant cry in the fetal position. And your boss, that useless tool, just nods eyes glazed over from his 3 martini lunch. He rubber stamps everything. Didn't read a word, just praying you'll shut up so he can get back to his benders and side chicks. So you go full try hard. In 2 brutal years, you turn that dusty dust bowl into a literal money printer. You purge the low-level corruption and min-max the trade routes until the city's tribute to the imperial treasury jumps by 15 times. The hype is so real, it reaches the capital. The emperor himself sends gold-stamped letters, medals of honor, and a VIP invite to dine at the royal palace. But that loot drop, it ain't for you. It's for the lazy mayor. Because technically, his signature executed your genius. You aren't the hero, you're just a ghost. Look at you. All that brilliance, the grind, the OCD perfectionism, it all served one purpose, making that lazy pig look like a genius while he gets fatter and richer off your sweat equity. Here comes the tipping point. Your empire finally crushed its nemesis and took the W. But victory was pricey. The treasury is basically bankrupt. To bounce back, the emperor, in his infinite wisdom, decided to tax the hell out of everyone. The people were already suffering from war drafts and debt, and now they got hit with fees so absurd they felt like a prank. That was the spark. Instability blew up. Rebel factions popped up like weeds, but most were total clowns, or just bandits using the revolution as an excuse to loot. You realize the Empire and the rebels share one thing: their approval ratings are in the toilet. Seeing this golden ticket, you decide to stop being a sidekick to a loser. You weaponize your rep and drop speeches so charismatic they could convince a rock to pick up a sword. Your message goes viral, spreading like wildfire. Crucially, it hits the barracks. The grunts, the poor underpaid majority, realize they have way more in common with you than with the guy wearing the crown. The coup was a total cakewalk. Everywhere your army marched, soldiers and citizens just threw the gates open. You walked into the palace facing pathetic resistance from the last few simps. The crowd isn't just cheering a leader, they're worshipping a savior. You hit delete on the old regime, perform a massive rebrand, and christen the nation the Solar Empire of Argenza. And you, the overworked secretary, you just promoted yourself to Sun Emperor. Year 1. You were the ultimate golden boy. The people called you a hero, the chosen one. With everyone hyping you up 24/7, your ego swelled to biblical proportions. You looked in the mirror and didn't see a dude. You saw a deity. But by year 2, that god complex turned toxic. You decided listening to experts was for NPCs. You started ruling based on pure vibes and divine whims. When advisors tried to give you a reality check, you didn't hear advice. You heard treason. How dare these bugs correct the sun? So you invented invisible crimes. The Purges were so clean, the palace went dead silent. No one dared breathe too loud, or they'd get cancelled permanently. But you're a dictator, not an idiot. You know public love has a shelf life. A crowd without a common enemy eventually realizes the enemy is you. You needed a villain to keep the content machine running, so you went full psyop and manufactured your own monsters. You built 2 shadow organizations. First, a cult of heretics for the wet work. You ordered them to brutalize a village just to generate pure terror. The public was paralyzed. Then, faking grief worthy of an Oscar, you went on camera, vowing justice, and launched your second creation. The Inquisitor judges an elite squad to hunt the very bad guys you created. The system was dark perfection. If a rich rival got too much clout and threatened your shine, the heretics tragically took him out. Then the judges avenged him, making you look like the GOAT protector. If someone rebelled, you just slapped the heretic label on them and legally swatted them. By being both the poison and the antidote, you gaslighted the whole nation into worshipping you. You murdered your ops, and the people gave you a standing ovation for it. You aren't just a ruler anymore. You're a living, untouchable god. By year 4, you're locked in. The Solar Empire runs like a Swiss watch on steroids under your command. But your ambition? It's a bottomless pit. It's not enough to shine on your own turf. You want your sunlight to scorch the neighbors too. But your big brain. You know you can't just invade because you're bored. That's boomer dictator energy. And look where that got the last guys. You need a valid pretext, a moral excuse to market this war as a holy crusade. While you're racking your brain for a narrative, an old ghost haunts you. Your dad. Since you took the throne, the old man's been living like a rock star, drowning in vintage wine and surrounded by girls young enough to be his grandkids. The debauchery whatever. It's his attitude that triggers you. To him, you aren't a living god. You're still just a scrub. He gets wasted at state dinners and roasts you in front of your generals, treating you like the hired help. He is a grease stain on your Gucci robes, a walking reminder of your trauma, but you can't just off him. Patricide is a PR nightmare for a deity. Then, as you stare at the invasion map, and then back at your dad drooling on the table, the puzzle pieces click. You get an idea. A scheme so twisted, so efficient, that Satan himself would be taking notes in the back row. You organize the event of the century. You brand it, Return to Origins. You gaslight your dad into thinking the masses are dying to see the humble crib where the Emperor's legend began. Blinded by vanity and the booze, he agrees to headline the show, not realizing he isn't the star, he's the sacrifice. The stage is set at your old house. But the surprise guests aren't stands. They are your own elite agents, meticulously cosplaying in the green uniforms of the Duchy of Velmora. You even gave them the curved scimitars exclusive skins from that region. Sure, if this were a real hit, wearing the enemy's literal merch would be rookie behavior. But we aren't going for realism or intelligence here. We just need a casus belli. When your dad steps out to wave grinning like a wasted prom king, the theatre begins. The fake Velmora soldiers attack with choreographed brutality. Everything goes exactly according to the script. The father of the sun gets unalived in broad daylight, allegedly by a hostile foreign force. The crowd is screaming in horror, but internally you're popping champagne. You just flipped your biggest liability into your biggest political asset. With his body still warm, you don't have an abusive dad anymore. You have a national martyr. And more importantly, you've got a blank check for war.
For the Emperor!
Your speech was straight up gasoline. Troop morale went through the roof, they were practically floating. You steamrolled the Duchy of Velmora in just 3 days. A total military speedrun. To flex, you invented a national holiday. The worship is real. You are officially a living god, untouchable and flawless. Year 5. You locked down a strategic marriage with a local noble's daughter. Power couple vibes. She gave you 2 sons, your oldest. The kid won the genetic lottery. He's charismatic, fair, talented, basically everything you pretend to be, but he's the real deal. The public stands him hard. Fast forward to year 25 of your glorious reign. Your heir is the only hope for peace with the Republic of San Aurelio, a total migraine of a nation. You've had 4 years of war and 5 years of a shaky truce full of drama, but the fix is in a Disney-style fairy tale wedding. Your perfect son, loved by both sides, is marrying the Republic's princess. In front of a euphoric crowd, you drop the mic. He is your successor, the Sun Emperor 2.0. The wedding day drops. A new dawn of peace is finally loading. The ceremony is smooth sailing until the toast. Your younger son, faking humility, pours the wine while the crowd cheers. But right at the altar in front of thousands of witnesses, the princess grabs a fruit knife and spawn kills your perfect son. The dream of peace vanishes in smoke. Your grief goes global. The public reaction is terrifying. The mob's rage hits a boiling point. Your troops aren't fighting for land anymore. They're fighting for blood. The Republic's morale no-clips through the floor. Their citizens are confused. Why did their own princess kill the peace treaty? Feeling betrayed, enemy cities just rage quit and open their gates. In 1 week, it's game over. The Sun flag flies over the enemy capital, and their president gets publicly executed. Total victory for justice. You give a tearjerker speech Oscar-worthy and ask for 3 days of absolute solitude. Cut to you sitting in the dark, silent. Then a voice speaks up. "Big bro, really nailed the performance, didn't he, Dad?" Your younger son steps out of the shadows. You nod coldly. The whole thing was a scripted event from day one. You only have one biological son. The older one, the golden child, he was an industry plant, an orphan you secretly adopted. You raised him to be loved just so he could be the perfect sacrificial lamb. The princess going psycho. That was thanks to the hallucinogens your younger son spiked her wine with. The older brother was never meant to be king. He was born to be a martyr. The ultimate weapon wasn't a cannon, it was weaponized trauma. Year 28. Peace is absolute. The lore surrounding you has gotten so wild that people don't see a politician anymore. They see a deity. You are a living god. You just need one last thing to reach 100% completion, shedding your mortal meat suit to become eternal. And your younger son, being the helpful guy he is, decides to speedrun that process for you. His patience for the throne. Yeah, that expired years ago. He flatlines you in cold blood in your bedroom. But to the world, it isn't regicide. He spins it as a cowardly attack by a new neighboring nation, one that just so happens to be sitting on a ton of natural resources. Your death instantly becomes the perfect political excuse, the ultimate casus belli to launch the sequel, the next great war of conquest.